Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the AWS Public Sector Summit. We've got a session here from Technology One. It's an industry panel of public sector leaders, their SaaS journey and the benefits they've realised from that journey. I'm going to introduce Ian Rouse, who's from Technology One, the Group Director of Cloud, to run the panel. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us today. What we'd like to do is share with you a bunch of stories from our customers. We think that's one of the most authentic ways to hear in their own words what their story has been and what their journey's been. And we're probably going to start the conversation with some benefits and aspirational goals from each of their different groups. To my immediate left is Michael Shave. Michael's the Director of Corporate Services at Noosa Shire Council. And I think you'll hear from Michael about Noosa is the place to make your next holiday destination. To Michael's left is Glenn McStay. Glenn McStay is the CFO of the Treasury in New Zealand. And Glenn has stood up a central agency shared services group to provide software services to agencies in government. And on the end of the panel is Biz Cannon. Biz is the CFO of Sunshine Coast University. And really transformational leader as far as taking financial systems to the cloud and enabling the academics to use workflow and mobile phones and all sorts of disruptive technology. So we just want to start a conversation and talk about what they've learned so far, what they see as the goals and have they achieved those goals, and then probably move into some of the aspirational pieces about what do you see coming next. Michael, are we okay if we start with you about a little bit about Noosa and some of that journey around cloud and SaaS from your perspective?
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Noosa Council is it's an interesting journey for us. We're originally a local government that's over 100 years old, but on the flip side, we're a startup. So in 2013, we were de-amalgamated from the Sunshine Coast Council after a period of about 6 or 7 years. As part of that opportunity, when we were looking at the setting up that new entity, we looked at our systems and what was happening in the cloud space at that time, and it was all new. And we had to make that decision, where does council want to position itself? Fortunately for us, AWS and Technology One were also in that space, and we had a conversation that led to actually, signing of a contract to deliver our systems through the cloud. So apart from the obvious risks associated with that at the time, the benefits for us potentially in terms of the capital and operating savings was tremendous. Based on the initial modelling we did, we're about 30 or 40% return on investment compared to employing additional staff, infrastructure on site and so on. The benefits there that we actually achieved then was that on an ongoing basis, as the cloud technology took off, we've been able to leverage off that in terms of the financial arrangements with Technology One and AWS. So look, in terms of financial sustainability, that was a key driver to move to the cloud. Our council at the time was really keen to pump some money into service delivery, so increasing levels of service for parks, mowing, road maintenance and community facility operations. So being able to actually divert funds from infrastructure, back office provision into frontline service was a key, and that's allowed us to remain financially sustainable. So in the last 4 years, we've run operating surpluses, and look, being mindful that over 70% of councils in Queensland are currently unsustainable in terms of their forward projections. So Noosa's in a very good financial position, and that's a large part to our decision to go to a cloud-based solution. The other probably benefit that we've realised is resilience in terms of we haven't seen in the last 4 years any downtime in our systems. We're 24/7 active. It's great. So not only that, we don't have to worry about if we change our processes and our data capture, we're moving towards mobility with our systems. Data capture in the field, video technology, capture of video, things like stormwater video and things like that. We don't actually need to worry about the capacity of of our infrastructure to handle that. So that's something that Technology One and Amazon worry about. All we have to worry about is getting that information. So that's another great benefit. Security is another big one. Originally, being one of the first local governments in the cloud, the audit office in Queensland had a very, they were looking very closely at what security arrangements were in place to protect customer data. Because as a government, customer data has to be protected. You've got personal information, bank accounts, and so on. So we've had no issues with the audit office. They've been signed off our audits for the last 5 years. No issues with the security. There's ISO compliance in place, so more than happy with that protection as well in terms of that resilience of the systems. Probably looking forward, our strategic plan for our ICT is not focused on anything to do with infrastructure. It's all about outward focus, customer service delivery, how we can leverage the CI Anywhere technology, which is being released progressively by T1, the mobile-based technology. And we know that the cloud, that software is being built on a cloud platform to run effectively and optimally, and that's what we're looking at. So probably in the next 4 or 5 years, we're actually looking at transitioning to CI Anywhere with a lot of our systems. We've done some already, but obviously it's a journey. But the cloud's an integral solution to that, or part of that solution. So look, in terms of the benefits and sustainability for us, resilience, and also around outward focus in terms of our IT strategy. So I hope that helps.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Thank you, Michael. I think that one of the unique things about Noosa we often talk about is that Noosa was a net new organisation. They were created out of a de-amalgamation process. So Michael talks a lot to us about the benefit of e-services and how the cloud allows you to connect to the community. And sort of in that world of connecting to the community, so Biz and I had a conversation before about how do we connect to senior leaders and academics and in time students. Would you like to talk about the Sunshine Coast University story?
Yep, happy to. With universities, our biggest aim always has to be on the students, and often universities lose sight of that. Sorry, I'm getting feedback. It's all right. So it's very important that aspects like finance, which are very background, don't drag on the resources that we need to put into the students. So it was very important that we have a partner that actually enables us to do that, and that was one of the main reasons that we moved to the cloud-based service that Tech1 offer.
And if you think about the transformational piece around the University of Sunshine Coast, we've spoken previously about workflows and enabling email-type conversations. Do you want to talk us through what that means for the academic staff in particular?
Yeah. Academic staff don't like going into multiple platforms. They like everything to be very seamless. Email is something that everyone understands how to use. So the way they see it when they're using the cloud service that we're providing, they think they're just dealing with email. They don't realise that they're actually engaging with Technology One as a product on the cloud, because that's how they want to operate. It's the same thing with the browser base. If they do go through to the browser-based scenario, they don't connect. They just think, oh, good, I'm in the internet as usual. So.
One of the themes we keep hearing about is the ability for browser-based connectivity on the cloud to really help people reach their community, be it a community of residents or a community of academic staff or students, because I think we've all got internal customers of some shape or form. And on that browser-based piece, I think, Glenn, in our conversations, that browser-based enablement was one of the benefits that CAS saw. Would you like to talk a little bit about the Treasury and CAS and that journey so far?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, when I joined Treasury a couple of years ago, we already were a shared service. We had 5 customers. 2 were using remote access into the Treasury environment. But because, even though we did provide shared services, our internal IT team never supported that remote environment. It was running very old technology, the user experience was woeful, yet if we wanted to expand our shared offering, because at the Treasury what we're trying to do is improve financial management across the public sector, and ourselves be an exemplar in how we do that. But I couldn't roll out a system where even basic workflows were not going to work properly just because of poor performance, and it's all because of our remote access. So what did we do? Going with Technology One and Amazon Web Services, that enabled us for their journey to the cloud to now open up and provide access to any agency. All they needed was internet access. So today, we've got a new agency going live as I'm sitting here, going live on the cloud. And that was a huge achievement. We built a template to support that and enable that. We have another agency going live in 3 weeks' time and another one in December. So it's enabling us not only to scale and share, but also to evolve and provide access to our shared service in a very agile manner and get people on board very quickly. So that was one of the key achievements. What came with it, of course, we had an earthquake back in Kaikoura in 2016. There were several agencies in Wellington that were affected by that, where they lost access to all of their premises. So those who had on-premise IT, they lost that. They were never able to go back into their building, and so everything was gone. All their records, all their personal belongings, everything they lost. That was a wake-up call around resilience. So whilst in the past we might have looked at cloud, worrying about as a government, is that secure enough, those sorts of concepts, the wake-up call came that resilience is far more important. So what does that enable for us now? Yes, through very good security. We're very confident about how our data is stored. And again, partnering with Technology One and Amazon, we now have a New Zealand Government Cloud. We have a dedicated tenancy for all government agencies. And we've made sure to meet the very stringent New Zealand government security requirements that all our data is encrypted both at transit and at rest. And also then that's come with that is the new future of work is about flexible. Flexible working is really important. So what's enabled now is I'm here in Canberra. I've been doing clearing some workflow items from my inbox. I've approved various people's leave. I can work wherever. In the event of a major disaster, which will happen in Wellington, we are earthquake prone at some point, it means we can stand up our teams from remote access points from people's homes, different alternate buildings, without having to worry about our IT architecture. So that's a big benefit for us.
That's great, Glenn. Thank you. We might come back to the concept of resilience and performance. One of the pieces that I found really interesting was the work we did together. I found that it was really interesting to collaborate around the New Zealand security requirements and trying to make sure we conform with the New Zealand ISM. And one of the things that I think is really impressive with our relationship with AWS is how we can actually accelerate that innovation together. Now, as a customer, I think we work pretty quickly to give you that solution, and that's passed all those ticks from that compliance point of view now.
Yes, Ian, it has all passed all the compliance hurdles, and that's critical, and that's enabling, again, us to expand quickly because we've done the certification and accreditation ourselves, and we're now sharing that document with all the other government agencies who want to come on and be part of our shared service.
Yeah, and look, this is the only time we'll probably talk about the company Tech One. I mean, we really believe in making deep investments once that benefit all of our customers. And so we really love these opportunities to collaborate with government and find ways to really remove the barriers of adoption. In this case, one of the significant barriers was compliance. And that will change. There'll be different rules in 6 months and 12 months' time. But, we're quite excited to make sure we can keep pace with those things as well. Glenn, you mentioned performance before, and Biz, I'll look at you. As a customer who's been with Tech One now for many, many years, you've actually transitioned from an on-prem infrastructure environment to a SaaS provider and cloud. A little anxiety around that. Was performance important in those deliberations?
Definitely, performance was, when we transitioned from on-premise to cloud, if performance wasn't better, then the project was a failure. So that was one of our key measures, and it definitely was the case that overnight performance improved. The big problem when you're on-premise, from a non-technical person, when performance is bad, there's a lot of fingers going in a lot of direction, trying to work out why performance isn't bad. Now I've got a little bit more, it's a lot easier. This is my very simple thing. I say to our IT department, is the internet working? And they say yes, and I go, Tech One, go and solve it. So, and it does actually work that simple.
I'll have to ask the leading question. So performance is better on SaaS than on-prem?
Definitely better on SaaS, and Tech One, the whole package works so much better.
So from a company philosophy, we really believe in this concept called the power of one. And we work with lots of people to deliver lots of things to our customers, but when it comes down to it, we actually choose to be held accountable. So we actually love to have these relationships with our customers where they make one single call to us and it's our problem to go fix the problem, be it infrastructure, be it software, be it something else that's mysterious. We actually enjoy those challenges and we like to actually move fast and help our customers. I might now flick back to Michael if that's okay. Michael, we talk about the de-amalgamation process and Noosa and the fact that the creation of Noosa as a council was effectively a community response. They wanted a local council that they could really have focus on their needs. How have you looked at the rollout of e-services and really connecting to that community through cloud and SaaS?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. E-services is a very important component of our service delivery to the community. So, for instance, if a customer wants to lodge a request, a noise complaint, an additional waste service, they jump online, lodge it direct into the Technology One system. They just see a front end on our website. However, they could just directly lodge. It feeds through automatically through our customer request system. That's then automatically allocated to the relevant department within council. So that's all seamless to the customer. They don't actually even realise that they're going into the Technology One system. They just think that they're working with council. So that's, that seamless operation is what we want to achieve, and that's, we want to enhance that as we go forward too with opportunities.
That's really good. Thanks for that, because I think it's really important to put colour on these stories. The stories are all about students and enabling agencies to move faster and enabling residents to connect with their councils and do more with less. So this enablement piece is actually something which I hope you'll start to see we're all bringing to life here with these journeys. Glenn, you mentioned a concept which I'll clumsily call remote working. Why is that important in New Zealand, and what is the New Zealand government thinking about that particular approach of not so much working from home but working from anywhere?
Again, I guess it's back to the resilience. When you did have major earthquakes and your building is no longer accessible, you do have to be able to work from anywhere, and be it a cafe, be it another office. A lot of us here may well be in government. But if everyone's network is different, and when you go in to work on that premises or remote access in, you can't access their environments, their networks. You can't get to the things you most need to do. You can't be productive. So the whole resilience concept has really been brought about and hammered home, again, because of real life experience, because one day a big earthquake will affect Wellington, and we're doing lots of work around that. And the future of work and flexible working is the new way. For many of us who've been around for a while, you spent 20 to 30 years, you go into an office, you used to go to a desk, you sit down at a computer, you do what you do, and you get the joys of going to meetings, which we all love. But will the future workers be the same? People who are used to instant on access to things all the time. And again, that's what the cloud is enabling us. We've always got access to our data and always got access to our systems. And I'm sure there's lots of budget holders out there. Maybe some of you in the audience are out there excited about accessing your budgets and doing your financial reports in the middle of the night. That would be nice. But it's a new way of working. We've got to be flexible, because flexible working isn't just about where you work from, it's also about how you choose to work. And it may be you're a parent, you're busy dropping children off, or you're caring for older parents or your own relatives as well. So again, we're embracing that whole concept of flexible working, because we believe we'll get the best out of people if we give them different and more flexible working arrangements, be it where they work and how they work.
So it sounds to me a lot about really personalising that environment to make sure that you can tap into every skill that's available and have them connect back to government and work for government. Quite enabling, I guess, in that particular process.
Exactly. It's all about how we get the best out of our people. And it's all about creating a very flexible and an open, and it's got to be a diverse and an inclusive work environment. They're big themes of the current government.
So if we talk just quickly about scale, Michael, I think if I think about Noosa and I think about some of the transformations, Noosa still is really innovating at the edge of what we like to do with our customers and pioneering. And one of those pieces, I think, is this interesting take where, we've taken really boring things like the storage of documents and made it part of the organic process for staff. And I think from memory, we talked before about millions of documents under management. But do you want to ever talk about that workflow? Because I think it actually brings the whole story to life about something really boring called records compliance and legislation, but a different take on how that comes to life.
Yeah, when we went live in 2014, we inherited a process where staff weren't really using the document management system, and with local government and with other levels of government, you have strict record-keeping obligations and legislation to follow. We've seen in the last 3 or 4 years with the development of the ECM product in Technology One, our staff have embraced that. And not only that, the ability to use that system, not only for staff use, but also for customer use, is very important. So, as an example, development in Noosa is very heavily scrutinised by our community. They're very engaged. So we publish all of our development applications online through ECM, all the supporting documentation. So a customer or a member of the community can going through our website straight into T1, look at those documents, look at those applications, and if they feel the need to contact council and voice an opinion, they do. And that's a good example to us of how we're using that cloud-based software as a service solution to engage not only our staff but our community as well. So I hope I answered the question.
You've done very well, thank you. We've got a few minutes set aside for questions from the audience. If there's any Q&A, just start thinking about those pieces, because I think we'll have 5 minutes left at the end. So if I can ask you to think of any questions, if not, we'll plough on, trust me. But I think closing arguments maybe, Biz, what do you see next to some of the things you'd like to do now that you've freed yourself up and you can move faster with the cloud?
So we've definitely got real examples. Since moving to the cloud, everything we're doing is going a lot faster. So we are able to stay on the latest product offering. And the only thing that's holding us back from not being on the latest product offering with Tech One is just our capacity internally. So whereas before, all of our upgrades were heavily reliant on the student program, finance is always the third poor cousin. You look after your students, you pay your staff, and then you might get some finance development. So we don't have any of that anymore, which is fantastic. We have our IT department actually rings us and says, you must be due for an upgrade, and we say we've already done it. And they say, how'd you do it without us? Well, it was quite easy. We've got, as recently as yesterday, we were talking on the phone with Tech One about how they've got some product there sitting that we might be able to take advantage of, and we will be looking to pull down that pretty quickly, I think. And so we're only limited by ourselves now, whereas before we were limited by a whole heap of other factors.
Nice story we're hearing more and more, and that's about giving up or eliminating existing constraints and helping the organisation move faster. Glenn, you talked about some go-lives. What are the next steps for CAS and the Treasury?
The next steps for us, we have some other software we've already invested in with Technology One. It's about rolling those out, making the most of mobile devices around expense management is one example that we're looking to improve. There's several agencies we're looking to onboard, so it is about refining our template solution so agencies can come on board quicker and improve their financial skills. And looking wider, I guess we have just gone live with a new payroll system on the cloud with Technology One, and it's how we as finance integrate our most important information, which is our people information. They make up our biggest cost of our business. So it's how we get the best out of that and embrace the new tools we've got available.
I love that story. I think a lot of the stories you're hearing today are really good examples of strong leadership. It takes a lot of courage and coordination to create a template for government. But I think you've proven that it is possible, and its adoption now is really the rollout piece about, well, how do we guarantee success with every agency that comes onto the platform? But that idea that these things are hard, yeah, sure, but I think for CAS you've demonstrated it's actually possible as well.
Yeah, well, I guess the example is there's an agency that goes live on the 1st of October, and effectively we're setting it up in 2 weeks with a brand new financial system using the template as the example. So, that's what's being enabled through using the cloud.
Thanks, Glenn. Really amazing story. And Michael, closing thoughts on what's next for Noosa?
Thanks, Ian. Noosa, we have a roadmap, implementation roadmap that's very closely aligned to Technology One's CI Anywhere roadmap in terms of the transition of their software. It's basically cloud enabled. So probably the next 3 or 4 years for us is a big project we're about to commence is our property and customer engagement systems. And then we want to look at risk management and governance and also our procure to pay. So there's a lot going on for us in the next 4 or 5 years, but all exciting stuff. So all focused on the customer.
That's awesome. Working back from the resident or the constituent, depending on your language, so that's great. We've got some time for questions. Are there any questions from the audience? I'm not going to force the issue. In closing, can I please join me in thanking Biz, Glenn and Michael for sharing their stories and taking some time with us today. So thank you, everybody.